What is up, JDs and Lenelmen? Today, I'm going to be going over a story about me and my friends and my school. And this is a new type of content. It's very experimental. I haven't practiced with any of this at all. This is a new type of content for me, as I just said. I've never done any kind of story times before. I've had live streams where I kind of go into a few stories, just a tiny bit, you know. But overall, I've never really done this sort of content. So, if you want to see more of this, just leave some support on the video, you know? And I'm just going to get straight into this story because it's a good one and it's a very, very nice story that I like telling. When I was growing up as a kid, I switched schools a lot. And that was always heartbreaking to me because I was always moving everywhere, switching schools, losing friends, making friends, having to repeat. It made me turn into some sort of almost like jealous person who didn't like big friendships that would last a really long time because I could never have something like that as much as I wanted it. I couldn't because I didn't have the availability to stay in one place for that long. So I had switched schools. I was in kindergarten and I had switched schools, and then I made it through 1st to 3rd grade and I had switched schools again, and at that point I was in 4th grade and I had no friendships. None. Because I didn't have a phone and I didn't have any way to keep any of my past friends, so I was starting fresh again, starting my life over in a new town. So, I go to this new school and everything's kind of normal. I kind of just did my own thing. I kept to myself. I didn't really like bothering people because I thought, you know, I was out of place there as a newcomer. So I didn't really bother anybody. I kind of kept to myself. And I sat by myself at a lunch table. And see, now, I've always been, like, quiet, but I'm not afraid to talk to people who I know are similar. But getting to know that someone likes something the same as you do, common interests, is very difficult without talking to them. Until one day, I met this one person. He had sat about a little bit away from me, I think across or diagonal from me at the lunch table, and he had started singing a song. And now, being the nerd I am, I immediately recognized this song, and I will tell you, the song he was singing, Undertale soundtrack song. That's right. I was a no-life who just played, like, games all day, and I had played Undertale, and I loved it. And I knew this theme song because it was a boss I was stuck on for a really long time. So I instantly recognized the song and was like, hey, are you singing that song? And then I started to hum out the part he was singing, and he was like, yeah, you know that from Undertale? And that's immediately how I got my first friend. And you know what? That was special to me. Because somebody understood me. In the past, when I had friends, they were always people that I had been around, and I always tend to lead towards the nerdy types, like glasses, really academically smart, you know, the type of people who don't have a lot of friends. And I still do lean towards those people. I'm not a big fan of popular people, but I used to definitely lean towards the shy kind because they were relatable to me. But here somebody was who was relatable, and they did have a good bit of friends. So, this person is named Geyer. Obviously, if you're a friend of mine who knows my content, who knows if you go to my school or whatever and you're watching my channel, because I know I do have some friends that watch my videos, you're gonna know who that is. Geyer. He's still one of my friends today, but that was kind of my first friend getting settled into my school, and, you know, we had become very good friends quickly. I don't think I was ever his best friend because he had already pre-existing connections to other people, but to me, he was my best friend. He was my best friend. I didn't have anybody but him, and he was the first person to introduce me into big groups. So I spent the entirety of 4th grade talking to him, talking to his friends, getting to know everybody. Then I started moving into 5th grade, where I had started to trying to grow into my own, and I was really obnoxious as a kid in 5th grade, and that persisted all the way till 7th grade. I would go up to anybody who was willing to lend an ear, and I would just talk. And you know what? It worked. I got a lot of friends, but I also made a lot of enemies, and I really realized how annoying I used to be, but I stopped talking so much, and it's better to be a better listener than it is to be a better talker. It's a good trait. Well, anyway, in 5th grade, I'd kind of tried to grow into my own and talk to people on my own, get my own friends, and I had met this person named Cameron. Now, me and Cameron didn't really have a pre-existing best friend that I think I know of, so me and him had quickly, gotten really good. I don't know if he was ever my best friend, because I always had other friends, but I sat with Cameron every single day at lunch. Cameron was really funny. He was in all of my classes. It was convenient, right? It was very convenient to get to know these people. So, I was friends with him for the entire time. I kind of didn't talk to Geyer and his friends. I talked to Geyer a lot still, but I didn't talk to his friends as much. And then we move into 6th grade, where I had started to grow more friendships, more and more and more friendships. And by now, I had the pre-existing group where I was accepted in Geyer's group, and as soon as I hit 6th grade and I didn't have classes with Cameron, I never sat with Cameron anymore. I never was friends with Cameron anymore. 5th grade was my Cameron friendship arc, and then 6th grade was the end of it. So, after stopping being friends with Cameron, even though I sat with him for every single day at lunch, I was still friends with Geyer and his friend group. I was friends with a few people, like Quinn. I was friends with this guy named Dom. I was friends with Geyer still, obviously. And, that was pretty unique to me, because I had never had such a big amount of friends. I had maybe most 3 good friends growing up, and everybody else, I was very mistrustful, and I never trusted a lot of people, because I always thought they just wanted to use me to show off, or to get ahead, or to do something. And while I know that's definitely not the best thing to be saying, I'm trying to be honest in this story time. So, we're moving forward, and I had these friends. I talked to Dom a lot, a lot. We had called practically every day. I was using my mother's phone because I still did not have my own phone. And, I was kind of getting into my own, and I met this kid named Axel. And he had shared the same last name with me, so we instantly connected. And he was funny, he was strange, but in a unique way. When I say weird or strange, I mean in a way that's enchanting, a way that's charming. And, that was good because I felt happy. I felt happy to relate to someone because, again, the more people I relate to, the better. That makes me happy. I think everyone follows that philosophy. Having friends that you can relate to is a good thing. So, I started to get more friendships, and I was friends with Axel. He was my best friend at the time. I was friends with Dom. He was one of my really good friends. And I was still friends with Geyer and Quinn on the sidelines. After a bit of, really, it was just some unfortunate occurrences that had happened. Me and Quinn were not allowed to be friends anymore. Parent intervention. Yeah, that's a story for another time, though. But me and Geyer just hadn't had the ability to talk as much. Again, I didn't have a phone, so I had to borrow my mom's phone to call people. I could rarely call people, though. I mean, it was only a certain amount of hours per day that I could call, because obviously it was her phone. So I couldn't do everything, I could only really manage 2 or 3 friendships outside of school at once. And those were Axel and Dom, mainly. Until I hit 7th grade. Now, 7th grade was a really, really big year for me because in 6th grade it had been rough. I had been lazy. I had been just kind of giving up on everything. I had very little friendships. I didn't go out of my way to keep my friendships. Like, when I say me and Geyer stopped being friends because we didn't talk, I didn't make an effort to talk. And that was on me. And I'm sorry. But in this year, I decided to try and be more friendly. I wanted more friends. I wanted more. I was greedy, and I wanted more. So, I had decided to get more friends, and I was gonna do that. So, I was still friends with Dom. Axel had moved schools, and his online Discord account, which was the only thing I had him on, got banned. So, I don't know where he's at today. He does not attend the school anymore, so I have no idea where he is. Axel, if you're still out there, I'm sorry, man. We could have been good friends, but you just disappeared off the face of Earth. But, anyway, moving on, I was still really, I still was looking for more friends. I wanted more friends, and I had Dom, but that was about it. And I kind of started to get to know this kid named Garrett. Garrett and Dom were best friends, and Garrett and Geyer were best friends. It was like a best friend trio. I was kind of the outsider because I wasn't really always a part of their trio. They had always been good friends, the three of them. I was just there. I was added. I was included because I was just there, and I was a friend of them. I really didn't like Garrett at first, but I got to know him, and he's not a bad guy if you really try to get to know him and understand his points. But I, I wasn't really belonging. And I was in a class, and I started going up to random people in the middle of the day, because we would have free period occasionally. I would go up to people in the middle of the free periods and be like, hey, how are you? And I would just socialize. Now, that got on a lot of people's nerves. There were some people that I mainly talked to because I know they wouldn't, shoo me away for being annoying. And, it's pretty sad when you get shooed away for being annoying. And I know, I was really annoying growing up. I mean, just go back 3 years. Look at my first video. If that doesn't scream annoying, attention-needy kid, I don't know what does. But enough about the past. I can't dwell on that. So, moving on. I was in this one. It was a annual, more like, I guess, quad annual. Like, you had to do it 4 times a year. Test for gym. And it would require you, it was called the Grand Pacer. I don't know if anyone else had this, but you had to run back and forth a shitload, and then you had to do push-ups for the other part of the test, and you had to do sit-ups for the last part. And I was always better at the sit-ups than anything else. I still am, by the way. I suck at push-ups. I'm at running, but I don't have stamina. I can run alright fast, but I have no stamina whatsoever. 0 stamina at all. So I can't run for a really long time, and I can't do push-ups because I'm weak as fuck. But as far as sit-ups go, I'm alright at sit-ups because that takes more core strength, and I have probably more muscles in my core than I do in my abdomen, more than I do probably anywhere else. I mean, maybe my legs, but again, I have no stamina, so my heart is too weak. Ugh. But, anyway, so I didn't really have any great friendships, and my one friend, Dom, was not in my gym class at the time, so I had to get a partner for gym. And I was partnered up, randomly assigned to this kid named Wyatt. And now, he looked so mean. He had this kind of glare in his eyes that would make you think that you did something to personally wrong him. And I knew I had never talked to this kid or met this kid before. I had no idea what I was gonna do. He just seemed angry at the world. But I think it was because of the sun, because as soon as you start talking to him, you kind of can understand his gentleness and his voice. He has a tenderness and a patience that's unrivaled in other people. So, I got to know him, and Wyatt was really nice to me, so I instantly became friends with Wyatt, and, it was very convenient, because he was in every single class, except for my music, art, STEAM, other classes, because I had the core classes, the 4 core as I call them, math, literature, science, and social studies, and I had gym as well. But there was one other period I had, which was, music, art, STEAM, health. That switched throughout the year. And he wasn't in, I think he might have been in one of those classes with me. But, I think, if I remember correctly, it was, I cannot remember for the life of me. What was it? I think he might have had health with me that year, but I cannot remember for the life of me. It's a struggle to remember, that far back. But, anyway, so we had, maybe one of those together, but for the majority of the year, we didn't have that period together. But we had 5 classes together, and lunch. So we had plenty of time to get to know each other, and that had created a strong bond between us, especially because he's so understanding. And I had made a realization that I was going to have to go out of my way to talk to people if I was going to have friends. So I started going out of my way to talk to people, as in I would text him first, I would call him first. And, by the way, at this point I had gotten my own phone. I think it was over the summer I'd gotten my own phone. So I got my own phone, and I was pretty happy, because I could text, I could call, I could do all that, normal pre-tween stuff, right? And I was still young, because it was only 7th grade, But I was happy because I had made a really good friend, and he didn't have a best friend. He definitely didn't have a best friend at the time. And he started to become one of my best friends, and we had started relying on each other more. And um after that, it kind of made me start wanting to talk to more people because he was a shy guy. He's still kind of a shy guy today. And I definitely think he's gotten better about it, but back when I had met him, it didn't really seem like he would ever try to talk to people. It really just didn't. He just kind of kept to himself. He was so shy and like just there, out of character, or out of mind, out of sight, I guess I should say. Not out of character, but you know, he was just there, and it kind of was like I was gonna be there for him. If nobody else was gonna notice him, I would, kind of thing. And it wasn't that he didn't have friends. He did have some pre-existing friends. They just didn't happen to have classes with him, and they still didn't go out of their way to talk to him outside of school. So he never talked to anyone outside of school, really. But in school, he did have some friends, yes. He wasn't a total, like, nerd. But that had kind of led me to talk to more shy people, and I get met to this one girl named Sophie, and I actually mentioned her name in a one video. I may have privated it, and it probably will be private in the future if I haven't already, because it was a really weird video. I don't even know why I made it. I think it was called like lol kek w or something, where it just said if your name is Sophie, you're a nerd. Yeah, that's because I was friends with this girl, and she was just a good friend of mine. We had became friends for a while. I had a little bit of feelings for her at the very end of the year after we had spent a year together, but overall, like, I wasn't head over heels or anything, right? I kind of was doing my own thing as a kid. And obviously, I did have a little bit of feelings, so I asked her out and I got rejected. So, anyway, enough on that embarrassing story. I had eventually moved into 8th grade. Obviously, time passes forward, and I went into 8th grade, and I'd spent more and more and more time with Wyatt. And now, Dom was also friends with me and Wyatt because Dom and Garrett, who are best friends, had a little bit of a fallout in 8th grade where they were kind of hating on each other all the time. So, they weren't as good of friends. They didn't mess with each other like that anymore. So, he kind of relied on me. Dom did, at least. So me, Dom, and Wyatt got really well acquainted. And because I had spent so much time with Dom through 6th to 7th grade, I mean, I spent more time with Dom than I really think Dom spent with Garrett, but the time we spent together wasn't as meaningful to Dom as it was when he spent it with Garrett. So that was just, that was just how that played out. It's nobody's fault. But I started to become more and more friends with him, and I spent more and more time with Dom. But because I had started spending more and more time with Wyatt, and I wasn't relying on Dom as much as I had in the past, Dom got extremely jealous. And he had done some stuff. And what he did is he became friends with Wyatt, like best friends, because he wanted to make me jealous and make me realize that, I I guess he wanted me to realize that it isn't cool when people get new best friends. And Wyatt is understanding, and so he was willing to be friends with Dom, and Dom was kind of using him to become, like, to make me jealous. And by the way, I'm not saying this because I think it's true. I'm not saying this because I want to paint him in a bad light. I'm saying this because he told me all of this was true, because I had confronted him about it, and because he said, yes, you're right, I never actually liked Wyatt anyway. So, you know what? Shame on him. That's not a cool thing to do. But I had fell for it. I kind of got mad at Dom, and me and Dom are not friends anymore because we couldn't get along. We couldn't agree on anything anymore. We always were fighting. But me and Wyatt, we were still strong, stronger than ever. We were still friends, best friends even. That's when we had truly become best friends. I was still friends with Sophie, but she had moved school, so we just texted. And then, it kind of had a good year. I was more friends with Garrett. Still had some friends. I kind of got to know more people and had more acquaintances or so. And, then it kind of hit ninth grade. And, by the way, this is the year where I kind of solidified who I really was in my own place. this was the year I decided where most of my friends were gonna lie, and that ended up being I had some new classes, and the whole way we scheduled things were different. It wasn't 5 classes the entire year with like one of them switching. All of your classes switch like 4 times a year, so it's like everything was switching. I was getting to meet so many more new people. I was getting to talk to a lot more new people, and overall, this had a positive impact on my friendships. And so I started really paying attention too. In all throughout my life, when I had school, I was always a straight A student, but I never tried. I was like low A, like barely A to like low A. But when I had hit high school, I realized, hey, GPA does exist and I do need to lock in. So I started making straight A's and studying for all my tests, for all my homework, for everything. I started trying, and trying. Because sometimes I would get low grades. I would get like a 94 out of 100 grade because, and this is American school system, by the way. I would get a 94 out of 100% grade because I just didn't care. I would like miss homework assignments because I forgot to do them because I just didn't care. I'd rather be playing like video games. So, yeah, that was my life back then. And then I hit ninth grade and I was like, okay, it's time to lock in. But I had met some new people. I had met Aiden. He was in my geometry class, and we had hit it off immediately because he has a very satirical kind of humor, and it's very funny, by the way. And he's very sarcastic, and I really liked his humor style. It made me laugh a lot. So we had gotten along really well, and he was a nerd. He was a really big, huge nerd. He liked video games the same as I. Maybe, actually, he definitely likes video games more than I do. But, he was a good person overall. And, we got to know each other. We got to spend... Oh, he was also in my algebra class, but we definitely hit it off more in geometry than algebra, just because we had gotten to know each other in algebra, but then we had geometry after that, so we had been in the same class for the whole year, because we had 2 classes together, each half of the year long, and so after the 2 semesters worth of classes that we had together, we had become good friends. He's my second best friend to this day. I had also started to become better friends with this guy I know named Phoenix. And while I knew Phoenix from 8th grade, he was one of the one of the many acquaintances I had picked up from my middle school years. But now that I was in high school, I started to talk to him more online, and we stopped being so hateful. Like, me and him would always fight over stupid stuff. But now we kind of got along a lot better, and we're still friends. And I had also met this other girl, and her name was Ray, and she's a very nice person. She's still one of my friends, again, to this day, and we had kind of been really good friends in biology class, because she didn't really have any friends in that class, and I didn't have any friends in that class, but I'm not really afraid to talk to people, and again, she was another acquaintance that I picked up from 8th grade. And we weren't really friends in 8th grade. I don't know if I'd consider us friends in 8th grade, but I had talked to her, just trying to get attention from her, because she always seemed so lonely. And I know that's a really bad thing to say, but I didn't like when people always seem so lonely. So I tried to get her attention to kind of, give her someone to talk to. And it did eventually work in biology. Like, she stopped, like, I guess ignoring me. I guess I was kind of harassing her in 8th grade. But it wasn't harassment by the time I hit 9th grade, so it doesn't count. And we are really good friends now. She's a really nice person, And I had met another person in 9th grade named Ethan. Now, he is related to Aiden. He's the brother of Aiden. They are twin brothers. They were in my Block Tales video that I released recently. All 3, of my best friends, Wyatt, Aiden, and Ethan, with the exclusion of one other person who's my best friend, but we'll get to that person later. And so they were all there, but I didn't have any classes with Ethan. I had a class with Wyatt, and I had lunch with Wyatt for a good while, but I didn't really have any classes with Ethan at all. So we only hung out, like, very few times of the year where we had events together, and I didn't like Ethan, because I thought he was really egotistical, maybe? And he didn't seem like he really cared about anybody, and he really kind of put other people down a lot, whether it was for his own sake or just because he didn't know that he was putting them down. I don't know. But I think he kind of realized, because a lot of people, I think, had talked to him about it. I had told him about it. I tried to, at least, to give him, like, tell him a bit about what is thought. And he kind of stopped being like that. Like, he really took a lot of advice to heart and he changed. And that was really good. Like, I was proud. And, so he started to be really nice. And he's one of my best friends to this day. He's a really nice guy. And there's a lot of nice people in the world once you start to look for them. And I also have some friends with other people now, like Vincent, who I met in 8th grade, but he was another acquaintance I had picked up from 8th grade, and I really began to become his friend in 9th grade when we had Spanish together. We had Spanish class together. And there were some other friends that I had too, like Aubrey, Reagan, just a lot of random friends that I had picked up along the way. I also had become friends with Quinn again. And so, overall, there are so many people who are my friends, who are my acquaintances now, and here we are, 10th grade, and this is current. This is up to date. So, I had met this girl in the second half of 9th grade named Ariana. I didn't really consider her a friend of mine, because, I just didn't. We didn't really talk a lot. I mean, she's funny, but we didn't talk a lot in 9th grade. And she had Discord, and I use Discord a lot for my main social media because it's what all my friends have. So I had kind of texted her a bit on Discord, and then I was like, hey, we can talk. And then we started talking more and more and more, like texting. And we don't have any classes together right now, but we always hang out at like events and stuff. And she's a really good friend of mine. She's my other best friend right now. And she's gonna have class with me in January. When classes switch in January, we're gonna have the first period together, which, that's gonna be exciting, because I'm also gonna have it with Wyatt, and he's my best friend. And, he's still my best friend. I wouldn't trade my friends for anything. And I have such amazing friends. And you know what? Milka, if you know him from my Lifesteal series, he's also one of my good friends. We still talk, we still text, we still call. We are still friends, and he's a really good person. I have so many great friends, and it's all throughout the years of high school, and years of middle school, and years of elementary school that I've gone through that has kind of cultivated me into a person with friends, and I've met even more people this year. Every year I add to my repertoire of friends, and it just keeps growing bigger. I have Carl, I have Gavin, I have Grace. I have so many people that I've met this year, too, that are friends of mine. I have a lot of friends from the past, and I have a lot of friends from the present, and I hope I get to keep making friends, because they're important to me, and I think they're important to everybody. And I think if you don't have any friends, then you should get some, because they're very important. As I just said, they're good for a lot of things. They'll make you feel happy. They'll comfort you when you're down. You just have to have friends. Friends all over the world. Friends all over your school. All sorts of different people with different ideals and different goals. But in the end, we're all just people. And we all want the same thing. And that's happiness. So, thank you for listening to my story. And good night.